on the river. Like, these things, just catch them all. All right, welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm out here on the bass boat. I'm not on the water. I'm actually parked in my front yard. Surprising that I'm on the boat. I'm never on the boat. You guys know that. If you watch my channel, you know I'm in the kayak all the time. I usually don't take this out. I've actually had this boat longer than I've owned any kayak. I actually bought this back when I first got into fishing. Funny story. When I first got into fishing back in 2018, 2017, 2018, my wife's uncle come up to me and asked if I wanted to buy a boat for $1,000. And I was like, no, it don't sound, I don't want no piece of crap boat, you know. Well, I get over to his house, help him undo some things because he was moving out. He couldn't take everything with him. And he had this boat pulled out, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. It's a 1996 Nitro, mint condition. I mean, you can take a white glove, you take that engine cover off, take a white glove, and you ain't gonna get nothing on your finger. Crazy. Can't believe I actually picked this up for $1,000. I was super stoked. Started getting into fishing real heavily. Well, at the end of 2018 season, I told the wife, well, I want a kayak, I want to be able to go down the river. Got a kayak, I started catching fish on that kayak, and I never turned back. It's like, there's just something about catching fish on the kayak that is just so exhilarating. So, we're actually out here today to talk about my 5 best bass lures. Bogolys keeping it real. Threw out a shout out to him. Actually, I want to show you this. I've been sitting on this package for a couple weeks now. I already opened it up, I already know what's inside of it. But Bogolys sent me this after I gave a shout out with me wearing his hoodie, which I love that hoodie. It's very comfortable. And he actually turned around and sent me 2 vinyl decals with his logo on them. I'm gonna throw one on the boat. I'm probably gonna put one on the kayak. And he also threw me a hook hat, which I have several of these, and I absolutely love these. Any hat I get, I actually get one of these for it. So that was a big shout out, and a thanks to Bogolys keeping it real. If you guys never seen his channel, go check it out. He slays the Delaware River big time. I mean, he tears them up out there. He does tournaments and stuff. He helps kids out. I mean, what more can you ask from a guy? You know, that's awesome, man. But he challenged me to show my 5 best bass lures, so that's what I'm doing today. We're gonna start off with the Texas rig, and I believe, yeah, this one right here. I always throw one on the G Loomis. I've already got one tied on, and as you can see, that's about a 16-inch leader. I always run fluorocarbon, 20-pound fluorocarbon leaders, barrel swivel down to a bullet weight. Got the bullet weight on there, and I always throw a bead on. Now that bead, every time you pop it, that bead and that weight like to make a little noise, like a little tick 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 noise under the water. Run that down to I believe that's a 4/0 EWG hook. This one's blood red. I'm not particular on my colors of my hooks. They don't matter to me. And I always run a creature bait, ribbon tail, worm, pretty much any kind of soft plastic, Cinco, anything. Tube, you can actually run a tube on one of these. I will always have one of these in my boat or my kayak, no matter what. That lure alone will tell you if the fish are biting. So that is my go-to. I always have one of those tied on. So with that being said, and you all know what the Texas rig is. It's very simple. I know a lot of people run Carolina rigs, but Carolina rig, I assume Carolina rig's more for like the river. You know, if you pop that up and that bait likes to just sit in the stream, slowly go down. That Texas rig, I like to punch it through weeds. I like to pull it through weeds. The lake I fish has a lot of milfoil, so that helps out big time. My number 2 bass lure Now I will always have one of these in the boat, but I will not always throw it. That is, and I've got a whole box of these. That is the old spinner bait. Everybody knows what they are. And most of the time, I run a soft plastic right on the back of that. Okay? Sometimes if I feel I'm short striking it, I'll take this swim bait off, I'll throw a trailer hook on. Okay? I've caught fish off just that trailer hook before. But that's my number 2. This has actually got 2 Colorado blades on it. I'm a big fan of the dual where it's got the willow and the Colorado blade on it. I have thrown the willow and willow before. Caught a few fish on it. But like I said, I've got a full box of these. I mean a big Plano box of nothing but spinner baits. I've actually got a lot in this box right now, like right here. This one's so beat up. The skirt's completely gone. I believe that's a Booyah. I believe this is a Lunker Hut, which I love that head on there. That's nice. And I've literally got ones. Let's see if I got one in here. Yep, right here's one I think with a trailer hook on it. Yeah, right here's one with a trailer hook. And as you can see, that little trailer hook right there, I've actually caught fish on just that hook right there alone. Because sometimes you can feel it. If they're short striking that and they're just grabbing the tail of that swim bait, take that swim bait off, throw that trailer hook on there, man, your hookup ratio will increase big time. I've actually caught pike and stuff on that too. So, and I've actually got big ones too. I don't have none out here right now with me, but I got some from my uncle that are just massive. They're for muskie fishing. So there's number 1 and number 2. Now my number 3. And I could have went with this was number 1 because when I first started fishing back in 2018, before that I used to worm fish. You know, I've never fished real heavily. I wasn't really into it. I guess you could say like I was more into doing other things. So like reloading, like got into guns real heavily, started reloading, so I spent a lot of time reloading, wasn't really into it. And then when I found this boat, I was like, man, I'm gonna give that a go ahead. I remember fishing with my uncles back when I was real little, worm fishing and stuff like that. So I spent all of 2018 fishing with a worm and not really having no success. I'd catch a crappie, I'd catch a bluegill here and there, and that's about it. And then one day I'm out on the water, this lady comes up and says, hey, they're hitting top water real good today. So I was like, you know what, I actually got a frog, I'm gonna throw one on. So I actually caught my first big bass on a hollow body frog. And it was that day, and I still thank that girl every day I see her out at Sleepy Hollow. Because this right here, this bait right here is actually the bait that got me into bass fishing real heavily. And I started studying, I started doing my research, started figuring out how to throw this, how to throw that. But pretty much for that whole summer of 2018, after I caught that one big bass, I threw nothing but a hollow body frog. I was not very successful. The hookup ratio was crap. I mean, I was catching 1 or 2 at a time. Not even that sometimes. I'd go out and get skunked a month in a row. But then I figured out that if you throw, and I figured out the little tricks of these little frogs, you know, you can bend your hooks out, and I think you can hear it. I put little beads in there too, it gives a little sound. And I believe this is actually the frog I caught my first big bass on. It's actually got a popping mouth. I always cut the tails off. You know, you fold them back. You know, some people say you fold them back until they're just touching the mouth. Not me. Look at that. Look how far off the face that is. I believe same thing with this one. Like, look how far off the face. Look how far off the face that is. That's significant. But this is my number 3 bass bait of all time. I love the hollow body frog. I love them blow ups. I love that thing sitting inside them, that muck, that real soupy, nasty crap that nobody wants to make a cast into. I just love sitting that in there and just slowly walking the dog. You know, you get in a little hollow spot of that crap, that bass comes up and just blows it up. Now I have noticed though, you get a lot of blow ups on these, but you catch a lot of fish with, oh, where's it at? Oh, yep, here it is. Okay, look at the size difference on those two. Look at the size difference on those two frogs right there. This one right here, you are more likely to catch more bass with a smaller frog than you are a big one. For some odd reason, when they hit this, I always seem to rip it right out of their mouth when I set the hook. But when I'm throwing a small one, it seems like my hookup ratio has increased big time. And my favorite frog of all time is actually this little Savage Gear. It's a frog ninja, or I guess they call it the Lily Ninja. But this frog is so beat up, the eye colors are gone, the back is almost gone. The whole underbelly is supposed to be yellow, that's gone. I've probably caught over 100 fish on this one frog, and I've actually had to super glue it back together a couple times, and I don't think there's any more beads in it because I've had this thing folded inside out on me before. Like I've pulled some bass out of the water with just this one frog. My number 4. My number 4 bait. Now, this is primarily on the river. I don't throw too much of this on the lake. I have caught some fish on it on the lake, but I like my other baits on the lake than I do this one. This one right here will absolutely crush the smallmouth. It will crush the pike. You will catch rock bass left and right with this thing. And that is the Whopper plopper. Now, as you can see, mine's pretty beat up. There's my hook scarring and all that. I mean, this thing is beat to crap. And actually, this is a brand new one from last year. I've lost a couple of these over time. I've actually got a full box of these too. I've got big ones. I've got 190s. This is actually the 90 size. I actually believe, yeah, I got the 75 tied on my Lose Mock Crush, one of my favorite poles here. But I've got the 75, and as you notice, that's actually got a red hook on it. Well, funny story of that, last year was at work, had a job site that was right next to the river, took a pole down there, hooked into a pike, went to grab the pike, and it flopped off and actually caught the hook right on my knuckle. Okay, and it dug down pretty deep. Had to snip it off and actually ruin the hook, so I put another one on there. Thought a red hook would just look cool, so they don't make a difference. They'll catch fish. But this is the one I throw on the river all the time. I've caught a lot of smallies with that bait right there, a lot. I mean, when I say a lot, I mean a lot. And I've got a whole box of them. Most of the time I don't take the whole box with me on the river just because you only need a couple. And I only take a couple just in case you lose one. If you lose one of these, you know how much they are. You're gonna do everything in your power to get that lure back. It's a $15 lure. Now, I believe that's the 110. That's a little bit bigger, as you can see, a little bit bigger. I've actually thrown the 190 on the river before and I've got blown up on it. So, all around good bait. This thing just irritates them, makes them go crazy, and they will hit it. Oh. All right, number 5 bait, and I've thrown, this is another bait that I stick strictly to the rivers. These work, man. This is the standard old jig head. See if we can get it out here. Just a standard old jig head. This is actually a Kalin's googly eyed. I don't know if you can hear that, but it actually has the eyes. There's an actual rattle that acts as the eyes, and you get a little rattle in there too. I always pair this anytime I'm out. I always pair this with a swim bait. And my favorite swim bait, and as you can see, I've got 3 of these. My favorite swim bait is that Straight King Rage Swimmer. These two are so beat up, as you can tell, the eyes are actually broke. These are little glass capsules that they put a little bead in, but this eye's busted. I mean, this one's busted in half, the rattle's gone. This one is, you can pretty much put a line right through that eye. I prefer the black, but the chartreuse works really good. This one here is actually a glow-in-the-dark one, which I don't think I've thrown that one as much as I do the black or the chartreuse one, but same thing. It will work. It will catch fish. Them are my top 5 baits, period. Like, them are the baits I will throw. And again, those are my top 5 baits, guys. If you ever watch my channel, you know I like fishing in the lily pads real heavily. Fishing in the lily pads, I believe you can pull a lot of big fish. A lot of them big fish like to congregate right in those pads. Pike, bass, bowfins, dogfish, bowfin. I've never caught a snakehead, so. But with that being said, that frog is killer in there. That Texas rig is killer in there. Now, you get in there and you're not getting the hookup ratio you think you are in them pads. And I'm gonna throw this one last bait, which I've already thrown it in. Like, you can use this on a Texas rig, but I like to throw the Senko, and I will throw that Senko on a wacky rig and drop that down in them pads, and they cannot just let that hit the bottom. They will hit that almost all the time. If they're hungry, they're hitting that. And I throw every color. Okay, pretty sure that's watermelon. Pretty sure that's a watermelon on there right now, but I will throw every color. My trout is one of my favorite colors. Black and blue is another one of my favorite colors. I know that I already said Senko, you know, and I'll throw the Senko on a Texas rig, but that wacky rig is versatile. You can fish it on the river, you can fish it on the lake. It will produce. So so there we go. Those are my five best lures right there, man. I mean, standard old Texas rig. Everybody that fishes bass fishing should know how to throw a Texas rig. That is my number one. Okay. The spinner bait. If you bass fish, you go out and it's a little windy, you know, you've got to throw one of these. These will catch fish. Okay. Number 3, the hollow body frog. Now, I'm not gonna sit there and say that the hollow body frog is better than them soft plastic frogs, because I watch people catch way more fish on them soft plastic frogs than I ever thought about catching on one of these. When you're running that soft plastic frog across the top, there's just something about it that entices them so much that they will hammer it. But there's nothing more exhilarating to me than letting this thing sit there and just pop it, and that fish will come out of the water for one of these. They will smoke this thing. And again, like I said, I caught my first big bass on one of these, so I will never turn my back on a hollow body frog. Number 3, the Whopper plopper. Okay. These things are unbelievable, especially on the river. Like, these things, just catch them all. And number 5, just a standard jig head with a swim bait on it. Like, this thing This thing is just amazing. I couldn't believe how many fish I'd catch on one of those until one day on the river. Now, we're gonna go ahead and conclude this video. There we go. I'm gonna throw all these lures back in the box. I'm actually gonna get ready and take the kayak down the river and see if I can't catch nothing. Thanks for watching, guys.